Well, if there's nothing better on a Monday morning than sitting down and recording the Shelter FootyCast at BackChat Studios with Mark Reddings, I don't think there is anything better. Skeeter, how are you?
Hello, Scully. Welcome back from the Gold Coast. I know you love that beautiful part of the world. It's one of my favourite places. And, yeah, huge weekend. So much sport happening.
Yes.
At footy, almost like an adjunct to everything else we're looking at. And
Did you have like a big multi-screen set up at home? You're home alone at the moment.
I'm home alone, and I've just learnt a lesson, good, important lesson on the weekend.
Which is what?
Don't drink and tweet because...
what have you done?
Well, nothing major, but it was about 1:30. Might have been close. About 1:30 on Friday night, and I just put out a tweet saying Ben Stokes had just declared... I said, look, great declaration. I said, only one team can win the match.
I read this tweet.
On the presumption. I think they'll take a couple of wickets. Anyway, I put that down. I thought, I didn't think anything further of it, but I didn't racially, sexually, religiously vilify anyone.
No.
But you would have thought I was the greatest numpty in the history of the world. I was champed about 3 times but about making such an early call.
Well, so you're not allowed to do that?
No, apparently.
I read it and told Dan... Because I just took everything you say as gospel, Skeeter. I saw it and said, well, apparently England can only win. Skeeter said it.
Well, put it this way. I said only one team can win. And at this stage, I'm still right.
Well, okay.
I'm not wrong, put it that way.
Right. Not yet, you aren't. And we've found that out here on the Shelter FootyCast.
And yes, I'd had 7 shelters, 8 bourbons.
Well, Gold Coast was a good trip, Skeeter, too. Shelter Footy.
I feel like the bloke that fought Tszyu, I reckon, at the end of...
Campo.
Campo.
You felt like him at the end of the first round.
Well,
unconscious.
Well, yeah, Saturday morning it was anyway.
Socials, Shelter FootyCast. Follow us over there. FootyCast at shelterbrewing.com.au if you want to get an email in to us. We've got a few things to go through as usual today. Skeeter, the Thirsty Camel clanger of the week. Don't run out of your favourites. Grab your shelters at Thirsty Camel and Froth Town. It's moving closer, Skeeter. August 18 and 19 at Claremont Showgrounds. We can get a few shelters into you there, I reckon. Got a big marquee set up. The Shelter boys down.
Have they? Yeah, well, with all due respect to anything to do with alcohol until at least Friday on Barley's.
And then you get reload. Be straight back on it. Froth.town and get your tickets over there. All right, the big moments of the round, Skeet. Look, I can't move past the Fremantle performance on the weekend. I've been banging on Flagmantle this and Flagmantle that, and they're back and they're moving in and they're moving up and they've got their stars back and they got their mojo back. They don't.
They were pathetic. Yep. And I'm going to be honest with you, that was poor, equal, biggest, worst performance under losing margin under Justin Longman. If it was the greatest losing margin. I think their worst performance this year and for a while. Now, inside 50 count, 68 to 44. The centre clearance is 16 to 6. They got absolutely smashed. Everywhere you looked, their skill level was poor. They looked like they had cement boots on. It was a really disappointing performance. I mean, now this is not specifically at the forwards, but I think there were guys like Michael Walters kicked a goal, but he, Amos, Sturt, Tracy, Banfield, all under 10 possessions. Bear in mind, only 44 inside 50s, and that wasn't the key. That wasn't the only reason they were. But a lot of players not getting hold of the footy. The bye, whatever happened after the bye, they've certainly fallen away.
Well, we spoke about the bye at the time, saying it came at a bad time given the momentum that they had. And now look at the momentum they don't have. Richmond smack them at home. GWS made them look silly. They had 21 marks inside 50 GWS in a game.
And Jesse Hogan was a laid out.
Yeah, correct. Well, not Peter. Riccardi. Riccardi. Where he 5, 6 goals?
I think he kicked a bag against
West
the Dockers.
Coast. And he's done it against West Coast too.
Yeah, so he's done it, I think, at Optus Stadium. So he's a slightly underrated player. Toby Green, just great to watch. And
Who
Josh
played
Kelly,
on him?
Well, Luke Ryan initially, I think, but at the end of the day, they didn't have Brandon Walker. I think spent some time.
Remember we spoke about this, so we don't know who to match up on.
I thought Luke Ryan was still the best. I think he kicked 3 in the first half, and Luke had the role on him.
He's a superstar.
He's a gun. And Josh Kelly, by the way, he was coming back from injury. Comes from great DNA.
With all due respect to GWS, I don't think they're world beaters. Nah. So that's even worse for Fremantle. They're going to... their Monday meeting will be happening right now. There'll be a lot of... I know a lot of people have written them off, and I've certainly been one to be really holding on to them, but I don't know what you do after a performance like that. Do you swing the changes? Do you Are you going hard at them? Are you reflective? Are you putting it, as a coaching group, are they putting it on themselves, how they're prepared? Are they putting it on the players? There'll be a lot of questions asked. We might have some answers next weekend, but probably not before then. A couple of other big moments, Skeeter, around, not in the football, as you said, the Ashes going over in England. You spent a bit of time covering that, mate.
Yes.
Kawaja, his first 100 in England, he's putting your tweet under a bit of pressure.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm happy to be proven wrong. I always, just in an overview, I think the team batting last is going to have trouble scoring, on the final day, even though it's been a slow road. But yeah, it's been it's a great atmosphere. The Test cricket over there at Edgbaston, the crowd, the Holly stand gets so engaged, and they're sledging. They were potting Australians about our connection with Rolf Harris. It was like, some really, cutting quite close to the bone with some of the stuff. But there was is it too early to go with our clanger of the week?
No, absolutely not. Thirsty Camel clanger of the week.
Yeah, Ollie Robinson.
Yes.
He's bowling 125 k's an hour, so he's sort of just over medium pace. And then, look, he got the wicket of Usman Khawaja. Yep. But Uzi had scored 140 at that stage.
Off about 500.
Yeah, so you think... Anyway, he gave him a send-off. I personally don't really care. It's the Ashes. I mean, if you tell me to F off on the way through, well, yeah, fair quarter, you've got my wicket. But at the end of the day, just remember that it might come back your way. So, look, he might be fine. Clanger of the week, bit of Ollie Robinson, only because being a dickhead, really, he's taken the wicket of Khawaja on 141.
Yes.
And then he's come out today and said, well, the Aussies have done it all the time, so we just...
really?
Giving
So he's doubled down?
He's doubled down. No, but it's a clanger. But I like it because you know what? It shows the bloke. He doesn't give a toss. I mean, he's been done before for tweeting racially, sexually misappropriate stuff. So,
so he's a flog.
He's a pie thrower.
Okay, great. He's a pie thrower. He's a flog. Thirsty Camel clanger of the week goes Ollie Robinson, you flog. And the final one.
You'll never hear this.
Well, you might. Tszyu. I was over at the Gold Coast.
Yeah, so 70 seconds, and you were happy with the whole thing?
Well, you asked me before we got on here. Look, there was a fight before. Sam Goodman, I should say, is the Aussie champ. He had a 12-rounder the fight before. And look, I'm not a massive boxing guy, but watching that fight, the atmosphere was everyone was very intent in watching it. Whereas when Tszyu knocked out this bloke, who's a good fighter, Ocampo, he ravaged him. Like, he was chasing him around the ring, and just to see, I hadn't seen something like that, like a one-on-one battle where Tszyu, the Aussie, who will now go on and fight a huge fight in Vegas now against a guy called Carlos. Yeah. Hit the button, please.
Yeah,
hit the button.
No,
Thank
you're
you.
wrong.
When did you go across the code to be their boxing
Charlo. There you go. Charlo. Not boxing expert, skaters, just covering the fight. Charlo's. He'll fight him in Vegas now. Biggest fight an Australian's been in ever in boxing.
So is he better than his old man now?
He will be, yeah. Yep. Fighting this fight as long as it gets accepted. But to see him running around and absolutely bashing at this, and then the guy's a good fighter.
Was it a better atmosphere? I were at RAC Arena for the UFC.
Bit different.
That was feral.
But it would have been like...
But good.
It would have been like... you were having some fun in the bar that day as well. It would have been like Volkanovski knocking out old mate Islam in the first.
Wow.
It was pretty cool. Anyway, got on the flight, 6-hour flight on the way home.
Don't complain to me, brother, when you've been at the Burleigh Pavilion for half your trip.
That's a very good call, Skeeter. I did see a plaque up there. Mark Reddings was here. Will Schofield, Mark Reddings, Shelter FootyCast. Now, our tipping, Skeeter.
Well...
Mate,
I went okay this weekend. You had a shocker.
I think you got 5 out of 6.
I know I got 5 out of 6.
Well, you got 4 because you wanted Brisbane by plus 50. I mean, it can only be fair. You didn't get your
roughie. That's a roughie. No, but that's the tips. Our tips, yeah. So let's not try and reinvent the wheel. Let's go through them.
I got 3. So
Did you really?
yeah. Well, I like other people on this podcast. So I picked an actual roughie. I'll have the favourite Geelong by 7 points or something.
Yeah. No, well, you're miles off. So you're 44 points. 44 points away from victory.
Yeah. West Coast have the bye. Let's not talk about them. No. Let's move on. GWS defeat Freo by 70 points. Start with the West Australian side. Skeeter, Freo are 4 wins, 2 losses against sides above them on the ladder. I don't know where GWS sat before this game. They're 2 wins and 4 losses against sides below them. So they're actually performing against sides sitting above them when there's a challenge.
Yeah, and now they're 13th on the ladder. They're a game and a pretty hefty percentage behind Adelaide in 8th spot. And so off the back of that, you're saying they're 2 games outside the 8. we're at round 12 or 13. It's all over the shop with the buys.
Can they make finals from here?
No, I just don't think. The buy. You might be able to play to this or answer this. It's happened to so many sides after the buy. Geelong historically have had an issue after the buy. But why do you think there's been clubs unable to play good footy after they have that weekend off?
Yeah, I know it's not every side, but in my experience, it's a break in routine and schedule, and that's not an excuse. I just feel like whenever we as West Coast, when I was playing, would perform poorly. You get your 4 days off, and that's good. But then your next week's a bit weird because you don't play the game the next weekend, and then you train normally as if you had played. It's just a different week, and so I think it usually takes these sides that don't perform well a few weeks to get back. Now, some sides do perform well, so is that a mentality thing? Is it a training thing? I don't know, but clearly Freo, post-buy, maybe the performances pre-buy, we overestimated them.
No, I don't think so. I thought they played good footy. I don't think we can diminish what they did pre-buy, but yeah, look, they had the same suspects, Brayshaw and Sarong, tried really hard.
They've only won one first quarter this year.
That's been the issue. 100, absolutely no. Forget this year. Go back to last year as well, Scully. They struggle. Now, is that on the coaching department? Is it on the players themselves? There's something missing as to how they start matches. And you know what it's like. I mean, you're down 4 goals to 1 or 5 goals to 1 at quarter time.
Turns the game into
You're playing catch-up. It's hard. And, that's exactly how it was. And on the weekend, they say their skills were Hayden Young, for instance, a beautiful kick.
Yep.
On the boundary, came in with an inside ball, which, they're trying to create something.
Which you have to do when you're down.
Of course. No, I totally get that. But
that's the issue.
He's turning it over. It was.
He's probably one of their best kicks.
Yeah, some of the skills, they couldn't keep their feet. Lachie Schultz said to us on 6PR it was probably the worst performance he's been involved with at Fremantle, which is saying something.
They would be soul searching a bit, because when that happens, and you have expectation externally, and you have expectations internally, and you've come off some good performances, and you have the buy, and you have a loss against Richmond, right? And that happens in footy, you lose. To then go and just get a hell of a lot worse, you then think, you do a lot of why. Like, as much as you like to say it, that you know the reason. I don't know if they'd know the reason why that performance happened. So that's what you want to find out very quickly. Why did that happen? So we don't do that again. So there'll be a lot of guys thinking, why did that happen? So, look, clearly disappointing. I asked you the question whether they can make finals. I think they still can make finals, but they're on their very last leg, Skeeter.
Mate, they're effectively 2 games outside the gate.
Very last leg, Skeeter.
Can I ask you this? Who are they going to replace?
Very last leg. I don't know. Honestly, I think it's just hope that West Australian footy doesn't have 2 dud teams.
Mate, it's a tough year for us to try and sell hope for anything. And you hitched your wagon to West Coast making the finals, and Fremantle going really well.
Yes,
the Eagles thing's obviously a disaster, and now Fremantle.
I'm not doing predictions next year. How about
yes,
that?
You are.
No, I'm not doing them. I'm off them.
I'm not bagging you for it, because you know what? If you've got an opinion,
I've got no control over these bloody teams. I back them in. I give them a chance, and they put it straight up me.
Yeah. Well, that's welcome to my world.
Predict this.
Of punting. Yeah.
See you later. There you go. There's the West Australian side of things. Let's get into the rest of the round. Mark Reddings, Will Schofield, Shadow FootyCast. Thursday night footy, it's back, Skeeter. We love it. Port Adelaide defeat Geelong by 38 points. Oh, you know what? I miss my clanger. Thirsty Camel clanger of the week. Before I move on. Don't run out of your favourites. Grab your shelters at the Thirsty Camel. Fremantle Dockers fans, go and load up on the shelters, because you're going to have to drown your sorrows. Those sort of performances from a side that, yes, I predict to be top 4. I think I even said top 2 at one stage.
6-0 they'd be.
Thirsty Camel clanger of the week, the Fremantle Dockers. As a collective. It is just putrid.
Yeah.
You can't perform like that when you have such expectation. I think the playing group and the coaching group have succumbed to the expectation. People said that they're going to have a good year this year, and they haven't been able to do it. Not even close.
No, well, not saying you're already starting to plan for next year, but finding where they need to improve their list and what they need to do to get better. But yeah, that's fair enough. And one team that has improved out of sight from last year's Port Adelaide. They were challenged really strongly by Geelong, trailed at half time. Down by 20 points or plus during that first half. But their second half just showed us exactly why they are, if not premiership favourites, certainly joint. It was a really good team effort, I thought.
They're an incredibly efficient side. They sit 17th before this game in average possessions, average marks. The metrics that some people like to use for, good teams. They don't load up with the footy. They don't, handball it around and get cheap touches. They are deadly. They're efficient. They come through the middle of the ground. They're aggressive. They attack. It's really hard to defend. It's really hard to defend someone when they have 14 touches and 10 of them are score involvements. So that was Sam Powell-Pepper this week. I know Darcy Byrne-Jones was that. Sam Powell-Pepper turning himself... Well, he's been forward for a couple of years now, but turning himself into all Australian.
Best season.
Yeah.
Comfortably. If East Perth boy... went across. Bit of talk he might come back to WA. But they all look as if they're really enjoying their footy. I mean, you think of someone like Dan Houston, who 31 touches at the weekend. Rosie's a gun, we know that. And then Jeremy Finlayson. Look, given what's going on off the field with him and his wife and her health, that is quite an extraordinary effort to come out and do what he does on a pretty regular basis and to kick what he kicked 4 on the weekend.
Yep,
it's a huge effort. So, no, Port Adelaide, they're actually enjoyable to watch. And let's just hope that, from their perspective, they don't cough it up in September. They're going to be finishing top 2 and top 4 at the worst.
Geelong?
Yeah.
Just
quick shout-out to Paddy Dangerfield with the lungs and the ribs to play on. I don't know if you've ever done something like that and been able to play on.
Yeah, I don't know how he played on.
Yeah, so full credit to him. He's a super player, obviously an absolute champion of the game. But, yeah, They fell away so badly in the second half. This just looks to me like a team that on their day they can play really good footy and be as good as any, but I just don't think they're able to. I just think that the belly, after the work they did to win a premiership last year, the belly is comfortable, it's full, and I just don't know if they've got that desire.
The hunger is certainly difficult to replicate.
Absolutely.
I've been in the position, and you can roll out what you want in the media, and you can say that we're doing this, we're doing that. The fact of the matter is, you win a flag, and for some of these guys, that's all they've ever wanted in football.
And for 10 years, because they'd been challenging but not winning, then to get to the summit, it's human nature to go, right, exhale. Then how can you keep that level or
when
that
there's 17
sustained?
other teams in the comp going, I'm going to rip your head off, and you need to be at that level to win a premiership, and you need to be at it all the time. That's why the great sides that have done it multiple times. That's why that's so impressive to me. I'm not surprised, but I did pick Geelong to win the premiership again this year. So another prediction down the gurgler. Brisbane defeat Sydney by 16 points. This is Friday night footy. Sydney were better than I thought they'd be, to be honest. And Brisbane, they didn't blow them out of the water like they do at the Gabba sometimes. Look, Brisbane had some young players playing, which I think people and fans of Brizzy would be impressed with. Jasper Fletcher, the father-son lad, of course. And they had a couple other young boys running around. I think, with Zorko and the like coming out of the side, that's probably a real positive for Brisbane.
When you think of Gunston and Rich, we talked about that last week. They've stood themselves down, and I tend to agree. Anyway, that's done. But the fact that Dunkley's able to continue playing the way he is with 28 touches, Lachie Neale 29, so they're the fire starters for the Brisbane mids. And as I say, Jasper Fletcher, son of, and of course Will Ashcroft, son of,
kicked the goal.
So. Look, I'm going to be totally honest, it wasn't an overly convincing performance by Brisbane. It was a pretty solid performance by Sydney. Swans are out of contention. Brisbane are just ticking along. Their test will come this week when they go to take on the Saints. But, I think at the Gabba, always difficult to beat. But Brisbane probably... they're certainly a fair way short of the top couple of teams in the comp at the moment.
My boy Jack Buller, had the two.
Didn't have many touches, did he?
No, he had a couple of touches. It's a big step up. Hopefully, he gets another chance at it and goes again. Brisbane get that done. Convincingly gets their Sydney side. Richmond defeats St Kilda by 20 points. A bit of a fight back by Richmond after St Kilda started in the wet. Look, St Kilda have been really competitive this year, and they haven't been blown out by really anyone. Like Hawthorn beat them, but they were in that game.
They just their performances, and I think if you look at their graph, I think it's win-loss for a large part of this season. And they really got away to a flyer against the Tigers on Saturday night. And have to say, I was a bit concerned for Trent Cotchin. Of course, his 300th game. But once the weather, obviously, a bit like at Optus Stadium the week before, Richmond able to surge. And my man, Shea Bolton, only 18 touches with 3 goals. He's playing some beautiful football.
Trent Cotchin, he's your froth. He's your
frothy. He's your frothy moment.
You're pretty frothy on his 300.
Oh, good on him. As I say, 300 games, and he's back playing. I mean, McWalter, the caretaker coach, has decided that, hang on, Trent, you made your name as a mid, and he's played more midfield minutes.
He had 19, 8 contested possessions, 3 clearances, 3 inside 50s and 2 goals.
Yeah, and look, I think this will be his last year. That's my gut feeling. Maybe not, but Richmond, tell you what, they're not going to make the 8, I don't think. But if they did, they're the team that you get very nervous about playing, wouldn't you, in September?
You know what? We've doubled up here in the Frothtown frothy moments. Although I frothed Tim Tszyu just absolutely belting the absolute living daylights out of Ocampo in the Gold Coast on the weekend. Tim Taranto, I could not be frothing him any harder. He's getting close to being top 5 Brownlow favourites.
38 and a goal.
The way I think since the moment
Kane Corns
wrote him off, 38 touches, 10 tackles, 6 clearances and a goal. He's putting together one of the all-time seasons, and you love to see it. I'm frothing over Tim Taranto.
Yeah, well, Kano is starting to channel some of what you and I do, and that's make bold predictions, write someone off, and they come back and just bite you on the arse.
And then you go, oh, look, I've
inspired him
to his greatest. You're going to find a way
Welcome
to
to the club, Kano.
That's very good. So, yeah, Richmond get it done, and it's not a surprise. I mean, you picked them. I didn't. I picked St Kilda.
Yeah, well, but I'm surprised. Because I did say to you, and you actually alerted me to this, might have been start of the year, Tigers, a club like Richmond, so intent on honouring their champions in milestone matches. That's why I picked Richmond.
Yeah.
And not
so you
sure.
can thank me.
Well, I just can't believe you.
Can you thank me?
Didn't I thank you? Why you didn't just follow your own advice?
Yeah, well, that would I'll tell you what, it'd be a good decision. Haven't made many of those recently. Carlton defeat Gold Coast by 59 points. Gold Coast Suns back to the 10 goals against Carlton, who couldn't beat anyone.
Couldn't beat an egg. They couldn't kick over 7 goals for a month, of which I think I tipped them almost every week. They've kicked 18 goals, 12 to absolutely obliterate a team I will call at the MCG the Washington Generals. So do you know who the Washington Generals are? Obviously,
well,
Harlem Globetrotters used to play against a team called the Washington Generals. They were like witches' hats, just basically there for amusement.
Right, so they would just run out and the Harlem Globetrotters would play them and just put balls around them.
And to me, the Gold Coast Suns, a bit like that. I mean, they kicked 2-6 up to quarter time and then absolutely blown away by a team that hasn't been able to score for the best part of 2 months. Look, Paddy Cripps, really good on a serious note to see him getting back. 3 goals, I think.
Yeah, 3 goals. Mackay kicked 3, Curnow 2. I mean, this is the sort of Carlton that we've grown to see. I mean, does it mean anything from Carlton?
A 9-goal quarter, Scully.
Yeah, but given what Gold Coast put out there from week to week, I don't think this means anything, mate, because you don't know what you're going to get from Gold Coast.
Their form was actually okay, but bear in mind, it wasn't the MCG, it wasn't in Melbourne. What I will say is, when you say it doesn't mean anything, what it does, and you'll admit this, is when you have a win like that, a bit of belief, and just, even if it's a team, a bit like when the Dockers beat Hawthorn here, to just get momentum on your side as opposed to hearing the crap spoken about you. So I'm not saying this is the turnaround moment for the season for them, but I think it is good for the club, for Michael Voss to say, okay, what we're doing is, and I think they're playing a more attacking brand, even when they've been beaten. They haven't been blown away too often. Is that?
Yeah,
I know we're trying to.
They've kicked their way out of games. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. So 6-15.
They haven't been accurate in front of goal. And you can do it a few times, but if you do it regularly, you won't beat sides. So they've done that on 3 or 4 occasions, and you win those games, and then probably the conversation, the rhetoric's different. But I take absolutely nothing out of this game, to be really honest. I don't think Gold Coast have a winning culture. They don't have enough people in that club that know how to win. And I would say the same for Carlton, to be brutally honest. I don't think they have a winning culture either. So I think the matchup in itself held no value, and I'll take absolutely nothing from it.
Who did you tip?
Don't even know.
I tipped the Gold Coast Suns.
What did I pick? I picked Carlton.
There you go.
They win?
Yeah,
that was the only one you got wrong on the weekend.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Western Bulldogs defeat North Melbourne by 21. Bulldogs hold off a fight from the Roos late. It was a high-scoring game, this one. I watched this intently as I was travelling from...
I did.
Did
you really?
From the casino to the airport, and sat in the airport where Virgin wouldn't let me into their lounge. Tell you what, Virgin Australia, don't fly from the Gold Coast to Perth. I'm a platinum member. Let me in, Skeet. Pissing me off.
You did say prior to this Shelter FootyCast starting, I'm not going to pot...
Well, you know what?
Virgin.
I am, okay? I am. Because I just wanted to go in the lounge, have some dip, have some cheese, have some sort of platter, right? Have a Coke out of the fridge, right? And can't come in. No one in there. I could see in there. There was no one in there.
Yeah, but you're not flying with them at that stage.
I understand. I flew multi-city to get to Gold Coast on the way in, and then I wanted to get home direct, and they don't offer it, Skeet. So how do I fly with you, Virgin, if you don't offer the flight? And you've put away the A330s. You've put away the big planes. They don't exist anymore. You don't fly them to Perth anymore.
So you basically flew back on the plane that we went in Busselton, did you?
Yeah, correct. that is right. The double-engine Cessna with the 2 seats in the back. That's what it felt like, Skeet.
Oh, that'd have been funny. And you would have been pissed, and you wouldn't have been... Dan would have been like, you would have been giving him an earful about why we can't.
Dan sat behind me, actually. We sat in different seats.
Anyway, while you're watching it, a guy called Cody Waitman.
Yeah, that was good.
7 goals.
Yeah, one of them on Griff Lowe, a good friend here at BackChat.
Took a hang.
Big hanger on him, and he wasn't happy about it either because it was a good one. He took another one a bit later as well. I did watch this intently, actually, Skate. But Bulldogs were impressive to the most part. They threw Aaron Norton back, which was a big talking point of the night.
That's been a talking point for a while for Bevo to see if he can get Norton back to give them a bit more steel in defence, because they've got the tool options in attack as it stands, haven't they?
Yeah.
But how did that play out?
So they lost Liam Jones. He broke his arm. Looks like he's broken his forearm. And they lost Tim O'Brien in the first quarter. So they had to make it forced. Look, I've seen a bit of coverage this morning saying that people were impressed. He's not a backman, unfortunately. He is a competitor and can compete, but he lacks any real craft as a backman. And I've played on him as a forward. He's a gun forward. Unfortunately, you don't put your gun forwards behind the footy. As much as I love backmen and defences, you don't put your best players in the back line.
Well, any time that you can see an Aaron Norton fly for the footy and take the marks he does inside attacking 50, I think, to me, that screams out he's a...
He'd have to spend 6 to 10 weeks figuring out what it looks like behind the footy. It's just a different game. You can't fly for your marks like that unless you figure it out, like a Jeremy McGovern does. You got to play a very different type of footy, and that's all good, but you have to play there for a long time. You can't just go back there and start playing. So, look, he competed well. I wasn't that impressed. I'd be putting him forward next week straight away.
Yeah, I mean, it was a stock standard. It was a lot more like a vanilla victory, 21 points. North Melbourne, to their credit, I think they're getting sick of the word gallant, but they have been gallant in defeat so many times this year, which I suppose the West Coast Eagles would like that term attached to them. By the way, you mentioned Gov playing this week.
Yeah, I think so.
Gut feeling?
They're going to have a lot of players back West Coast. McGovern, Barras will come back. Cripps could come back.
Cripps?
Yeah, there's some names. I've heard there's 9 players that could come back into the side this week. So I'm trying to think of who the other ones are, but they're good players because they haven't been playing.
No.
Jack Darley, he was in last week.
Jack played, so they need it. They're playing Sydney. We'll talk about that later in the week, but that's good for the Eagles. We haven't had to talk about them too much, thankfully, although their chairman's come out and said they're not going to win the Wooden Spoon. The alignment with a Waffle Club still they're looking for because their Waffle team's so poor.
Right, so that's... So wait, so I saw in the paper somewhere that West Coast will not finish bottom.
That's Paul Fitzpatrick. Yes, he's come out and said that. No,
what's the reasoning behind it?
He thinks they're going to win enough footy in the back half with those players coming back. So, well, you know what? I don't mind that. I mean, over here, if we say something you're a goose. Eddie Maguire will come out and he talked about priority picks for the Eagles last week on Footy Classified. I mean, He said next year, if they're still no good, give it to them. There's no chance the Eagles are going to get a priority pick this year or next, in my opinion. But anyway, I like having, we are in the opinion-based business. He's come out, Paul, and said, we're not going to win the Wooden Spoon. Well, okay, hand over to the players.
Yeah, that's aggressive. I like. Yeah, you know what? You've swung me, Scott.
I thought hard after your weekend on the Gold Coast. It was like the hangover part 3.
Will Schofield, Mark Redding, Shoulder FootyCast. Thirsty Camel Clanger of the Week.
Haven't we had those already?
Yeah, we have. We have, Skeeter. I was just going to...
You and I both had
I was going to tow us both into it, but I think I'll leave it. Now, let's get into a couple of listener questions, Skeeter.
Yeah.
I'll have to pump this font up a little bit on here because my eyes are struggling a little bit.
34 going on.
Hi, Will and Skeeter, with reference to Pilates for football players mentioned in the podcast last week. My chiro told me that footy players can have too many pretty muscles and would benefit greatly from developing better core strength. Hopefully, West Coast will send boys to Alex, my wife, for help in that regard. Although I get the impression West Coast are more interested in saving money than anything else. Lee goes whack.
Yeah. Look, You know better than I this, but I think there's going to be no question that the West Coast Eagles will leave, dare I say it, that term, no stone unturned, financially or otherwise, to make sure they get to the bottom, or at least find out how they can improve in so many areas of the footy club, including their footy department. So,
I don't think it's a money issue.
Definitely not.
You can whack West Coast on a few issues, but I don't think spending money is one of them, unfortunately. But if they would like to make a deposit down at Studio Equilibrio down in Lathlane Place, very happy to take your money, West Coast.
I just love the nepotism on this. I love it. I'm supportive of
Eagles believe, this is from B. Wood, Eagles believe B. Williams, J. Williams, so that's Bailey Williams, Jack Williams, Jamison and Barnett are better ruck forward options than Jack Buller. Question is, are they all better than Buller? Can Jay Williams be a regular player and better than Buller? I'd love that to be answered. It's got to be difficult playing for Eagles Rezzies at the moment as a full forward. I agree, if Buller plays well, the pressure will be massive. Surprising they didn't get Narkle for nothing in the preseason, but perhaps there are issues there. Does this indicate lots of academy players to be drafted this year? So this is around Jack Buller not getting taken with that second pick of the draft. He goes on and has, not the biggest game for
Sydney Swans
on the weekend.
It is hard to try and I think there's a good point made there. A guy like Jack Williams, I think he ruptured his spleen.
Yep.
So he's had a long time out of footy. He is, in my opinion, going to be a pretty good player. I think there's a lot of growth left in him. So perhaps if we're trying to line up him and Buller as selections, for instance, one's, I think, probably 19 at the moment, Williams, just as a guess, in that 18-19 bracket, drafted. I suspect that he's going to be as good a player as what Jack Buller is or will be. Yes. You have a slightly different opinion, or you think Jack Buller should be playing AFL football regularly?
I think he should be on an AFL list,
which he is.
And he signed right. 100% right. My prediction about the only one, I'm 100% correct, because all of those things have happened. Now, can he be Buddy Franklin? No. Can Jack Williams be Buddy Franklin? Probably not, but you need players that can perform at the level. So you don't get to do that unless you're able to develop in the waffle, which a lot of West Coast players are not doing at the moment. And you don't get the chance if you're not on a list in the first place. So a lot of these guys, these players, they take 3 or 4 years to develop. They take their time getting ready. You don't get to see any of this if they're not on a list and getting the chance to develop. So West Coast have got them on their list. Can they develop them? That's the question West Coast have.
Absolutely.
Which is not a good one to have, but that's true and live right now.
Other question, just in brief, I think Callum Jamison was mentioned by the questionnaire about playing forward. I'm not sure he's a natural forward. I have seen him play some good footy around the ground for the Eagles.
They've had to play him as a ruckman. I still remember seeing him as a more slender. He's put on some size this year. I remember seeing him play on a wing.
You said that, actually.
2020. And I was impressed. He did some stuff that I thought, if you give this kid enough time here, he could be something special. Like, he's 200 centimetres tall.
He's an amazing athlete.
Blitzarves type thing.
Yeah, totally. That's a good comparison.
But I just don't know if West Coast, I don't know if they've been able to develop him like that. They've had to play him as a ruckman because they haven't had a ruckman.
Yeah, well, and if we're looking at any positives for the Eagles in brief, Bailey Williams has been one of those.
Yep.
Cast into the role of ruckman. We're not sure he's a bona fide ruckman, but he's doing a really good job. Can that type of season translate into him once, hopefully they get some, the Barnetts coming through, who is a genuine ruckman, but still very, very raw, allow Williams to maybe assume a more forward position and take over eventually from a Jack Darling? These are questions I guess that we'll find out in the next 12 months.
It'll be good to see, Skeeter. Last bit of feedback for you specifically, actually. This is from Brooksy. Says, "G'day, Will and Skeeter. Rules to live by. The first game of the round or Friday, pick the opposite to Skeet and any 50-50 he picks as well. Love the work, legends. Go Flagmantle."
What's his name?
Brooksy.
Hey, Brooksy, you peanut. I actually picked Port Adelaide to win. I got 5 out of 6. So jam that up your jumper. I'm getting in some good form. Love your work, by the way, Brooksy.
Good work, Brooksy. We love that. Get Skeeter fired up. The Shelter XBA X Factor this week, Skeeter. We can't give it to a West Coast player. We sure as shit can't give it to a Fremantle player.
Who can we give it to?
Can we win a Narkle? He debuts for his footy club.
Couple of goals. Spoke really well after the game.
Yeah, so I reckon we're going to give it to Quinton. What do you reckon?
Love it. And, he went to Eston, knocked on the door there, gets picked up by Port.
He'd be pretty happy landing at Port Adelaide, wouldn't he?
Wow, he could end up playing deep into a premiership campaign. He just needs to hold. Bear in mind, Willie Rioli was the out, which opened the door for him. But all he can do is.
So was Junior a laid out? Was he?
Junior was an out with the flu, as it's listed.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I mean,
Anyway,
that's better than
Quentin
injuries.
Narkle will pay the cost to get it to Adelaide and
Absolutely.
drink him, young man.
Yep, Skeeter will get it there. Don't worry. Shelter FootyCast on socials. Follow us there. FootyCast at shelterbrewing.com.au. Send us an email. So maybe just tee off at Skeeter a little bit more. Fire him up. Skeet's going to work. I'm going to bed. See you Thursday.